What's up everyone? I'm Will. This is Origami Cybertruck. Today I want to talk a little bit about what I see as some sort of dishonest reporting that happens a lot in the electric vehicle reporting space that affects all people in the electric vehicle industry and Tesla in particular. Let's dive in. So today, my dad sent me a couple of articles that he found online. We kind of exchange articles like this about electric vehicles all the time. It's sort of fun. But anyway, one of these articles, there's two that I want to go over today. One of them is kind of about electric pickup trucks, and specifically, the electric pickup truck wars are about to begin, reads the headline. This comes from CNN Business. And then the second one I want to talk about comes from Business Insider. And it says, rather long one because it was originally in German, electric trucks like the Tesla Semi are, quote, pointless, both economically and ecologically, according to a vehicle tech expert. So let's dive into these and why I think they're a little bit dishonest and disingenuous. So the first one from CNN Business talks about the electric pickup truck wars about to begin. Let's set aside the fact right now that the war is not actually going to be between one electric pickup truck and another, but it's going to be between electric vehicles and electric pickup trucks and their internal combustion engine counterparts. So it already starts off with a false narrative that is kind of promulgated as this sort of rivalry between Tesla and other people, okay? Then let's just kind of look at the bias and how this shakes out, all right? So first of all, it starts off by talking about how even before Tesla released the Cybertruck, a bunch of other startups and established automakers already had announced plans for pickup trucks of their own. Oh, do tell. Most of these trucks are far less insane looking than Tesla's 40,000 ultra prismatic Cybertruck with its supposedly bulletproof windows and dent-proof body. Still, they boast of amazing sounding capabilities that in many cases far outmatch even heavy-duty gasoline and diesel trucks. All right, first of all, I don't think I need to point out too much how this introductory couple of paragraphs are really ridiculously biased against Tesla. They call it the Cybertruck insane looking. They say supposedly bulletproof windows. They're not announced as bulletproof, so that's actually inaccurate also. And the dent-proof body. Obviously, if you were to hit it hard enough, anything will dent. So that's a little bit silly, but dent-resistant I would go with, sure. And I got to give them credit. They say amazing capabilities that in many cases outmatch even heavy-duty gasoline and diesel trucks. So, I'll give them a little bit of credit here for mentioning the fact that electric vehicles outmatch gas and diesel trucks, but minus major points for just kind of coming out with these sort of pointless and ridiculous criticisms. Okay, then they go on to talk about Ford, how they released a video about an F-150, a battery-powered, also known as a battery-electric F-150 prototype, towing a low-speed freight train filled with 1.25 million pounds. Okay, this is, 1.25 million pounds, this sounds like a lot, but actually this whole thing about towing a truck has been debunked on a number of other websites, including Engineering Explained. I'll provide a link to it below. It's a great video. You should check it out and see why this is kind of a bit of a nonsense thing. Spoiler alert, basically any car at all, or even, maybe even a well-geared bicycle could potentially do this feat. So that was a bit of stagecraft, whatever. So that's kind of not worth really citing from a realistic standpoint, but at least it does make electric vehicles sound good and powerful, because they are. They go on to talk about an electric pickup from GM that'll offer, the electric Hummer, which, by the way, is something that has been announced. Who even knows if they even have a prototype of this? Who even knows if it'll ever come to production or not? Okay, the first quote we have here from this particular analyst, Sam Abu al-Samid. He's a transportation analyst with Navigant Research. The big question is, when you actually start to use those trucks as they're intended to be used, how much is that going to degrade the range of the truck? By the way, this is a great formula for all these sort of stupid articles. They'll kind of talk a little bit about stuff in a positive way, then they'll roll out an expert. And this expert's always, someone who seems credible. Maybe they are a consultant at a research firm, or maybe they're a professor. Now, without digging into exactly their ties to where they might be getting paid from, what kind of interest they might have other than, being completely objective, or even, maybe perhaps trying to see and promote a sustainable future. Without getting into all of that, let's just say that it's very likely that a lot of these people that they pick have, let's say, ulterior motives and biases in place. All right. First of all, most people who get pickup trucks do not ever tow anything with them at all. This is well documented. Again, I think Teslanomics has a good piece about this, which I'll also try to link below in the notes. I know pickup trucks, you buy them because of this rugged macho look, and some people actually do tow stuff with them. I totally get that. I tow things with my pickup trucks. I will be towing things with my Cybertruck when I get it. But the reality is that most people never tow anything at all with their trucks. So this is like kind of a little bit of a BS thing to talk about, without pointing out that people basically never tow anything for the most part. Yes. In the comments, you're going to tell me how much you tow with your truck. I get it. I tow too. Save me. Okay. Anyway, they kind of point out that electric motors are superior, which they are. They take up a lot less space, which is true. Now then they start talking about all these other trucks that are coming to market. Okay. Michigan-based Rivian, talks a little bit about that. $70,000. It's important to note that Rivian has not yet produced any vehicles for sale whatsoever of any kind. And I believe that they will and may very well be successful, but they have not produced any at all yet. So they talk about Bollinger Motors. Now, Bollinger Motors is kind of cool, but it's a very niche vehicle. I mean, this is a vehicle that's going to sell for like $125,000 and have about a 200-mile range. Then they go on to talk about Lordstown Motors, which Lordstown Motors has, so far, as far as I'm aware, bought a plant from GM and done nothing else. They have no prototype vehicle. The picture shown in this article is a rendering because they don't have a vehicle at all. All right. And they're saying they're hoping to start producing trucks later this year. No, they're planning to start producing later this year starting at about $52,000. All right. We'll see, but again, without a prototype, that's kind of BS. Next, Nikola the Badger, okay? This is a company that makes hydrogen-powered semi-trucks. Well, do they make hydrogen-powered semi-trucks? Have they made any? Have they made any production type hydrogen semi-trucks? I don't think they have. I don't even know if they've got a working prototype. And this is another render for a truck that will probably never be made. They claim that it'll have a 600-mile range from lithium-ion batteries and 300 from a hydrogen fuel cell. This truck's not going to happen, guys. It just isn't, because hydrogen's not going to happen. Not anytime soon, and probably not anytime ever. So basically, and then we close off this by saying, I think it'll start off as a niche and it'll gradually grow, according to this Sam guy. Okay, well, of course it'll start off small because they're starting at zero, all of these companies, and then they're going to expand the capacity. My problems with this article are, number one, they're kind of making this false equivalency between, like, say, Tesla and all these other companies. Tesla is going to produce the Cybertruck. I can guarantee that is going to happen. I mean, as far as things can be guaranteed in life, that's going to happen. The Nikola Badger, not happening. Lordstown Motors, who knows? Bollinger, yeah, but very limited. And then the Rivian, pretty cool. They're the most likely to actually produce these things, but they haven't done so yet. And they haven't produced any kind of vehicle, all right, which is the Cybertruck and what its capabilities are. That's kind of a glaring omission, and the only time they really do reference the Cybertruck is to kind of like poo-poo it. So I think that shows a lot of bias there. You may disagree, but I think that's pretty biased. All right, let's look at the second article, and I think you'll see some trends showing up here. Okay, This article, again from Business Insider, originally from the German edition. Electric trucks like the Semi from Tesla are pointless both economically and ecologically, according to a vehicle tech expert. Now, this article is set up with a study that was conducted by the Transport and Environment, which is a consortium of European environmental organizations, and they're offsetting with some counterpoints from some so-called industry experts. These two industry experts are both deeply involved with the German auto industry, as we'll see. The two people that they cite in here as these so-called experts, who they basically just brought in to essentially go against Tesla here, is Martin Daum, the head of Daimler's truck division. So, he's probably going to be fairly biased about this. The other person that they cite here as an expert is Markus Leenkamp, the chair of automotive engineering at the Technical University of Munich. Now, what's important to know about Markus Leenkamp is that he worked for a great percentage of his career for Volkswagen, another German auto manufacturer. All right. Now, he might have some ties still to Volkswagen. He might have some ties to the German government, who is trying to promote the German auto industry and trucking industry. Just saying, there might be a little bit of conflict of interest here, and yet that is not disclosed inside of this. I'm also kind of curious as to where maybe his funding comes from. Could be interesting to find out. But, okay. The study itself, it's an okay study. My big problem with it is how this article writer chose to take one of the graphs, but not the other, to sort of prove this point that it's not ecologically or economically viable. They chose to take the most problematic graph here, which is one that shows that electric vehicles or electric trucks aren't any more economically sound, or barely so, but it contains a bunch of spurious assumptions, like that the insurance costs for an electric truck would be nearly twice that of a diesel truck. And I actually went and read the original study paper, and it said that they had just assumed that the cost of the insurance would scale linearly with the cost of the truck. So because the truck itself is the upfront cost more than a diesel truck, the insurance would be higher. This doesn't make any sense because actually the insurance rates for an electric semi should be much lower. They're much safer to operate. They have the ability to torque vector, so you really can't jackknife, an electric semi truck. You got regenerative braking, so you don't have these runaway truck accidents. Obviously, all of the features of autopilot and stuff like that are going to dramatically reduce the amount of liability and the number of accidents that you're going to have. So it's a really spurious assumption at best to say that the insurance would be a lot higher for a Tesla Semi. But be that as it may, they also include a bunch of costs for extremely expensive supercharging, quoting not just the Tesla supercharging rate of 27 euro cents per kilowatt hour. They also actually include an extremely expensive rate by Shell superchargers that's much higher as an assumed cost in here. Now, no one's going to be charging at these stations who's running a semi-truck. That's not going to happen. They're going to have their own depots that are made to have a much lower rate because they're going to be buying electricity in bulk. They're going to have an industrial rate. They're going to have probably some battery storage at these locations that's going to help reduce that cost. They're probably going to have co-located renewable energy that's going to cost much less. But now here's a graph that I want to show you that Business Insider conveniently neither quoted nor showed in their article. Now this is a graph that shows how much less CO2 emissions an electric truck would have than an internal combustion engine diesel semi-truck. It's dramatically less. So there's just no way that you can come to the conclusion that ecologically there's no benefit for having an electric semi-truck. Let me show you, for example. In France, you would achieve actually 35 grams of CO2 per kilowatt hour, which would be 94 to 96% cleaner than a diesel semi in terms of CO2 emissions. That's today. And that doesn't even take into account the fact that we're only going to be adding renewable energy from this point forward because it's cheaper than gas or coal-fired power plants. So it's just insane to me that someone would put out an article like this unless they had a clear agenda in doing so. Kind of interesting that this Business Insider article just completely avoids this rather important graph that actually does show, contrary to the headline, is pointless economically and ecologically. It's actually not pointless economically. There were some faulty assumptions in the initial paper, and then ecologically, they just didn't bother to post that. Okay, but here's what they did do. Let's look at the quotes from these so-called industry experts. First of all, Marcus Leenkamp, again, he's the professor here. The battery for a Tesla Semi must have a capacity of about 1,000 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers, about 130 kilowatt hours. Marcus Leenkamp, the chief automotive engineering at the Technical University of Munich, told Business Insider, "This is technically not easily feasible, and it's also pointless both economically and ecologically." All right, what's your data, Marcus? Because that's not what the study says. And Business Insider, shame on you for providing this, I guess, talking windbag to contradict the study without providing any numbers, any evidence whatsoever. Furthermore, the first quote doesn't even make any sense. 1,000 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers, about 130 kilowatt hours. That's like doesn't mean anything. If you know what he's talking about, please leave it in the comments below and explain it to me, because I have no idea what that even means. It just sounds like throwing word soup out and making it sound like a fact or a figure, and then just saying, oh, it's pointless economically and ecologically. That's BS, okay? Then let's go to Martin Daum, the head of Daimler's truck division. Quote, "If Tesla really delivers on this promise, we'll obviously buy 2 trucks, one to take apart and one to test. Because if that happens, something has passed us by," he told Bloomberg at the start of last year. "But for now, the same laws of physics apply in Germany and in California." Ha ha ha. So condescending, Martin. Gonna have to break it to you, though. I'm sure that a lot of things are going to pass you by. Sorry. So I hope you're starting to see kind of a trend here. Basically, these publications come out with these anti-Tesla, anti-electric vehicle, anti-electrification articles. They quote these industry insiders who don't back up anything with facts or figures, or if they do, they just throw word soup and numbers at the wall that don't actually support their claims. Meanwhile, the somewhat valid study that they looked at, they pick and choose to support this narrative that this, industry expert who, has worked for a competing firm for most of his career stated. So I guess what I'm trying to say here is that when you read these articles, when you see these things online, I mean, you really can't trust very much of what you see. At least in this Business Insider article, they linked to the original source, and I will link to that as well. I do suggest you read it if you're interested in this. But the bottom line is most people aren't going to read that. They're just going to look at what these talking heads say, and then, they're going to come to the conclusion, oh, there's no point in electrification. We'll just stick with diesel. Oh, whatever. This is ridiculous. Anyway, I hope I've shed some light on to this subject. I'd like to maybe do more of these kind of article reviews in the future. Let me know if these are interesting or not down in the comments below. As always, if you found this interesting, please subscribe to the channel and give us a thumbs up, like the video, and forward it to anyone who else may enjoy it. All right, until next time, this is Will from Origami Cybertruck. See ya.